Kennen Sie den schon?
Our car tester Sasha Knapp is getting to grips with a new Ford Ecosport, the second edition of the car, which is developed in Brazil and built in India. Sasha wants to see how it handles European roads. Is it really a car for the whole world, as Ford promises?
Was Ford verspricht, nämlich ein Auto für die Welt.
The Ecosport has been around since 2012, but it's just now going on sale in Germany. It bears a resemblance to the Fiesta and is also reminiscent of the Kuga. The Ecosport isn't small though, and it has plenty of space on the inside. Sasha feels the seat is too soft, and he isn't totally happy with the steering wheel either. But he's getting used to it, and he thinks maybe he just hasn't found the right seat position yet. We're testing the 1.5-liter Duratec TDCi engine, a diesel that puts out 66 kilowatts of power and consumes 4.6 liters of fuel over 100 kilometers. It has a top speed of 160 kilometers per hour and costs just over 21,000 euros in Germany. Sasha says Ford is going to release a model with a 1-liter Eco engine. That will live up to the first part of the car's name. But we're still waiting for it to live up to the second part as well. The gasoline and diesel-powered engines currently available aren't the strongest. Certainly not as strong as you'd expect from a sports car. In truth, the car's more about transport than sport. With its wide grille, it cuts an impressive figure, and the spare wheel on the back gives it a real off-roader look. The interior looks modern, but contains a lot of plastic. We want to see how the Ecosport handles rough terrain, so we head for some unpaved roads. The car sits 18 centimeters off the ground, so it clears obstacles easily. A fording depth of 55 centimeters even lets it cross shallow rivers. It can deal with rough ground as well, but the Ecosport isn't as tough as it thinks. Sasha says even though it's an off-roader, the Ecosport is more at home on the asphalt. It can handle fields and forest tracks, but if you take it out on less forgiving terrain, it doesn't perform as well. That's partly because there's no all-wheel drive model. But Sasha doesn't think the car should stay away from European markets because it's a consistently good city SUV that's well worth the price tag.
Denn wir haben hier durchweg einen guten City-SUV, der auf jeden Fall sein Geld wert ist.
The Ecosport is an option for people driving on country lanes, as long as they don't plan on going completely off-road. But it has more to offer people in cities who want to feel secure and a good-looking car. Both customers will like the tight turning circle and spacious interior of Ford's mini SUV. The BMW factory in Spartanburg, South Carolina has been producing cars for 20 years. What made the German car maker head across the Atlantic and set up shop in the USA? BMW's Harald Krüger says there were three reasons. The company saw great potential because of market growth in America. Another important reason was that it meant BMW could generate profits in the USA without being affected by changes in the exchange rate between the euro and the dollar. The third reason was that the company believed the SUV market would continue to develop, and therefore, by starting production in the USA, the BMW brand would also develop. The factory celebrated its 20th anniversary with the release of the new X4, which is being produced exclusively at the Spartanburg plant. It's a smaller version of the X6 and is set to take on the compact crossover SUV market. The X Series began with the X5 back in 1999. The X3 and X6 followed. And the cars aren't just made for the American market. About 70% of them are exported to more than 130 countries around the world, including Germany. The differences between the two countries meant BMW had to come up with a new approach here. Harald Krüger says it's important for every employee to have quality as their top priority. BMW has to invest more in education and training in the USA than in Germany. America doesn't have the same training programs as Germany, so people applying for jobs here often don't have the necessary qualifications. But he says each side can learn from the other. The Americans are flexible and positive and really engaged with what's going on. The factory produced almost 300,000 cars in 2013. Some of the decisions on production are also made here. Most of the development takes place in Germany at the Research and Engineering Center. The American factory takes over when production starts. But Harald says some of the decisions are made right here. The factory's running while people are asleep in Germany, so people here need to be able to make decisions quickly. Each series has a development team here in Spartanburg. There's close contact between the two countries. Roland Gour moved from Munich to Spartanburg to help run things here. He's responsible for planning the production of the X4. Roland says a team from the factory went over to Germany during the planning phase for the X4. The Americans who went are now back in the USA, working on production. It's an active exchange between Americans and Germans, and a great network has grown out of that. Charles Jeffrey is another key figure here. He thinks the production team is more closely connected to the creative process than it would be at other companies.
I think the biggest difference is just the innovations and the involvement with the planning and development side of the product. So we don't just build the products here, we're also part of the development process with our partners in Munich and the global network that we have with the other factories.
Anthony Brown started at BMW straight after finishing his studies. He says he's learned a lot about language and culture through working for the car maker.
20 years ago for me, there was nothing here. We actually made the plant for the first time, constructing everything in the main line. And I was able to join the original team to build the very first 318. It was awesome for me being so young to start with BMW at a very early age. Deep-rooted Bavarian, sometimes, it's difficult for the Americans to understand the Bavarians when they're speaking, but that's just the culture, so it takes time, and I guess much more and more practice, I guess will make it better.
After 20 years, the factory is still growing. BMW is investing $1 billion here and boosting the number of employees. They want to make even more cars in Spartanburg. Škoda's Citigo CNG GreenTech is the Czech car maker's first natural gas-powered car. Other similar compact natural gas-powered cars are VW's EcoUp and Seat's Mi EcoFuel Start and Stop. The Skoda G-Tech starts selling at just over 13,000 euros in Germany. Kia is introducing the second generation of Kia Soul to the streets. The design has been completely reworked, making this Soul much more dynamic than its predecessor. Buyers have a choice of two engines, a 1.6-liter 97-kilowatt gasoline model or a 1.6-liter 94-kilowatt turbo diesel. The starting price for the new Kia Soul in Germany is a shade under 17,000 euros. Test driver Klaus Niedzwitz says he's in northern China in Inner Mongolia for Porsche Snowforce 2014. Temperatures are minus 35 degrees Celsius. This is where the car maker demonstrates how the different Porsches perform on ice. This 911 has its engine in the rear, the Boxsters is in the middle, and the Cayenne and Panamera both have theirs in front, under the hood. The winter conditions make it possible to see where the differences really are. The Snowforce 2014 instructors are masters of the ice and snow. About 1,000 kilometers north of Beijing, on the sheer ice of Yunlong Lake, journalists and Porsche customers are taking a ride in the different models. It's time to start. We fishtail with the front-engine Panamera. Klaus winds into a long turn to the left. He says the car fishtails when he puts his foot on the gas. He steers into the slide, saying the accelerator is key to controlling the curve. Sounds simple? The advantage here is that there are no guardrails to put dents in the car. The best thing is that it's lots of fun, and drivers learn their car's limits. It's easy to slide in the Panamera, and of course, we're driving with the electronic stability control and anti-slip program switched off. So don't forget to switch the Sport Plus on and all other driver assist programs off. The 911 skids like a wizard, but with its rear engine. The car must be handled differently than the Panamera. It has different balance. The drivers figure that out right away. A soft touch on the accelerator is a real help here. After 35 years in motorsport, Klaus knows what to do. He loves driving through skids, and this all-wheel drive 911 brings out his inner child. Head instructor Arndt Stolman is confident and capable in the curves. The beginners, by contrast, go from skids to spins. Arndt says that the biggest mistake is underestimating the conditions and driving too fast. People think there's more traction and go into the curves too quickly. Then they understeer and it slides. But we've got ways to handle that, and we teach our customers step by step. On the second day, the road conditions are a bit different. Klaus says there's more snow, meaning they're in for lots more fun. The excitement remains limited to a few spins. Giving lots of gas in the slippery, sharp hairpin didn't necessarily mean taking the curve at speed. So there was a 180. Then a 360. And finally, the driver got the knack. The skids aren't signs of flaws. They show how engine positioning affects handling. The rear engine Carrera has some trouble braking on a slippery slope. If it begins to spin, the weight at the back adds momentum. All the driver assists are of course shut off, but please never try this on snow and ice at home. The front engine Cayenne is easier to control because the force of the skid is concentrated on the front axle. The Boxster and the Cayman are next. The cars with mid-engines are being sent through a slalom course. Here you can see the little Sportster is perfectly suited for quick changes of direction. Front engines make snow the element for the Macan and Cayenne. To sum up, we can say all Porsches are sporty cars, and you can drive them even in conditions like these. But you should know how your car will handle first. The VW Bus has been a cult car since the 1950s, and the revamped T5 multivan is worthy of its illustrious ancestors. With no lack of confidence, VW calls its cars simply the car, so it might as well call the T5 the bus. The T on VW's commercial vehicle stands for transporter, but the bus is lifestyle incarnate for highly mobile people from families to nomads. Car Tester Matis Kurat concedes the multivan is ideal for anyone who needs space for any reason, professional or private, for a conference room or a camper for big families. He can't think of many cars that accommodate 7 people and luggage besides. The T5's all-purpose design is timeless and not entirely without elegance, and it's practical for everyday use. Hardly any other van is as flexible in how its interior can be used. That's been the secret of the VW Bus's success for nearly 65 years. The space is the thing, and the seats are comfortable, and then some. The fold-out center table may not be a new idea, but it's practical. The cargo space reaches a maximum of 4,500 liters, but only with all the furniture removed, which one person alone can't easily do. The seats are heavy. And maneuvering the seats and benches out the doors takes both coordination and elbow grease. On request, the center console can accommodate a multimedia system with Bluetooth and satellite navigation. Matis points out that even if the 2-meter wide and 5-meter long multivan isn't the sleekest car, its simple contours make it easy to maneuver. We tested the biggest TSI gasoline-powered engine with 150 kilowatts, giving the T5 lots of pickup and temperament. VW's 2-liter turbo can push the van from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 9.5 seconds. Matis takes that as a very decent time for a multivan, even if it takes lots of fuel to do it. The diesels in the range available are quite a bit more efficient, but no less nimble. And the maximum torque of 350 Newton meters is not to be sneezed at. The dual-clutch transmission in the van we tested changes gears swiftly and easily in perfect harmony with the powerful engine. Matis likes the VW Bus's high seat position and the better view the driver has of obstacles coming up. One of the biggest obstacles comes up right on the showroom floor, the T5's list price, starting at a good 32,000 euros in Germany. The 2-liter TSI engine version we tested with a dual-clutch transmission costs a whole 20,000 euros more. And it doesn't end there. The lavishly equipped Business Edition commands a business-class 120,000 euro price tag. Matis says the interior looks nice, but the T5 is still a utility vehicle. But it's one that can be lots of fun. The VW Bus still basks in some of the glow and nostalgia of the day, and driving one is still something special, as it's likely to be for generations to come. It looks like the classic Bella Macchina, an artifact of the golden age of Italian sports cars. But this one is not a Bertoni or a Pininfarina creation. It was designed and built single-handedly by Johannes Paulsen. The Berardino is a two-seater in the tradition of the 1960 sports cars. Johannes Paulsen has been honing his personal automotive vision for more than 50 years now. At 17, he began dreaming of a super sports car, one that would surpass the Ferrari 275 or the Ford GT40. He explains that his original idea was not necessarily to build his own car, just to own one. But when he showed his father what cars like that cost, he was told he would never be able to afford one. The Berardino may look like a pricey sports car by one of the elite makers, but nearly every part of it was designed and built by Paulsen himself, with a visual and technical quality that impresses even the experts. The automotive technology graduate put around 7,000 hours into it, from the first drafts to the completed automobile. He says the drawings were the first step, but the first sketches he made when he was 17 were a bit immature. They began looking more professional after he learned technical drawing as a student. He based the car on the final drawings. He still thinks his final design images were quite good.
To
finalize the design, Paulsen had to fashion a 3D model of the body. He says only when he started building the model did the project take on the third dimension and the appearance of the actual car. Making it was a piece of work. By the late 1960s, he was creating true-to-scale models from plaster. He made the final draft design on a scale of 1:1. Paulsen built a negative mold and laminated the Berardino's body in fiberglass reinforced plastic. After 7 years in the making, the Berardino was ready to roll. Paulsen acquired the mechanical components like axles and the engine from Porsche. The 110 horsepower engine swiftly carried his 1,000-kilogram creation to a speed of 200 kilometers an hour, a respectable performance for the early 1970s. In 1975, the Berardino got the blessings of the state inspectors. Paulsen explains that he was in constant contact with the state inspection point in Cologne, the only one that is authorized to deal with prototypes. He had tailored the interior of the barely 1-meter-high Berardino to his own 1.70 meter height and located the instruments in the center console to save space. The 2-liter 6-cylinder boxer engine from the Porsche 911 is mounted in the rear. Unusual are the auxiliary instruments in the engine compartment. Paulsen calls it a service panel, and it's unique to the Berardino. It comes in very handy when he services the engine. He can even start the engine from the back when he synchronizes the carburetors. He put all the instruments needed for the 911 engine in the rear, such as the oil pressure and temperature gauges. Paulsen even built his Berardino so it can be transformed into various styles. Besides the fastback, there's a notchback with a different hatch. And if so desired, he can even convert the sports car into a breezy roadster. The convertible is version 3, and Paulsen sees a bright future for the Berardino. He says he's got plans for modernizing the car to make it attractive to today's drivers. It's not a matter of copying the now vintage sports car, but of redesigning it with cutting-edge components and technology.
Man kann diesen Oldtimer nicht nachbauen. sondern man muss jetzt ein Auto von neu auf konstruieren mit moderner Technik.
Paulus is on the lookout for partners willing to contribute to the new Berardino. That would make Johannes Paulus's dream come true, to see the spirit of the Berardino live on.